one of whom is not at his seat yet, so I'll introduce him in a second. But of course, with me is Jim, a resident 40k expert. How's it going,
Oh,
Jim?
yeah, thank you for throwing that label at me. Now the chat's going to talk massive amounts of shit while I fuck up names and events. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
As long as you're worse at it than me, we're good.
Oh, I will be. Yes, expect that.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today, buddy. I really appreciate it. I've been waiting to do this show for a long freaking time. Um, this is a 40,000 subscriber show, so thank you all for watching and for some reason tuning in like every night to watch me make a fool of myself and hopefully make a fool of other people. But
You'll be
today,
doing that tonight when we talk about 40k and I screw everything up. It's going to be good.
well, that's the goal. That's the goal, is to finally get you in a gotcha moment.
Oh, you're going to have plenty tonight. Yeah.
To expose you for who you are. Welcome to that. And our other guest is he'll be back in just a second, but it is a border prince, and hopefully he will keep us on track with the lore. There's not really a plan for this stream, guys. We're gonna just be talking 40k. I hope to talk a little bit about the actual lore, about the story, what makes it interesting to people. But I also, if my guests are willing, oh, and I'll wait till he saddles up for this because this is a blindside. Hey, welcome, Border Prince. How's it going, man?
I'm fine, thanks. How you doing? Oh, we'll be live, are we? Sorry.
Yeah, we're live. You missed it, but it's okay.
It's very important. I need coffee. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. You take your coffee. I've got my Glenlivet Nadura.
Good
that I'm
choice.
drinking. The El Rosso sherry casks. I strongly recommend it. So what I was saying is I want to talk about the lore and the story and the world of Warhammer, but I want to talk about I guess there's like a socio-political aspect that's always hovering around this toxically masculine franchise where women are not only hated and murdered on the regular, but they're disallowed from the positions of importance.
Yeah, it's constant. Yeah, it's true.
But
I like to call it the smell barrier. Any hobby which requires more dedication on the part of the user usually has coupled with it a more heinous smell of the players. So you've got like your Pokemon kids kind of normal-ish, but by the time you get down to D&D and Warhammer, like you need to put a fucking clothespin on your nose when you're walking in the hobby shop. So I think that's what's keeping the women away. I don't know if it's socio-political more than it is.
Might be a contributing factor. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what I do is I went down to the local Mechanicus and I got rigged up a harness with some of that Febreze spray stuff, like right up here. And whenever I walk in, if someone gets in front of me, there's a motion sensor and it just hoses them down. That's how I keep the nastiness at bay. But no, it is a nerd hobby, and in any sort of nerd hobby, you've got, well, it was built by guys. And now that's not okay anymore. You can't have men building these worlds, because men build worlds where men are actually cool, and women are there, but they don't necessarily have all of the same cool jobs as the men, and that is a problem in 2019, and we need to fix it immediately. We need more women getting horrifically maimed and murdered by Tyranids, and chopped up by orcs. And
honestly, it feels like it's more like sponsored events that this is kind of happening at. I cannot recall for the life of me any time that I've been at a hobby shop, whether it was playing Magic or D&D or even kind of playing around a little bit with Warhammer and stuff like that, where women were really present. It was always some dude's girlfriend. I'll be honest with you. It was You maybe had one or two female players who were actually really into it and they kind of blended in, but for the most part, it was pretty much a guy thing. And I think it's mostly, especially like in Magic and shit like that, you'll see kind of at tournaments, it's more like kind of PR stuff, but the hobbies themselves, I think, are kind of purely masculine. I haven't seen really anything to contradict that. At least that's my hot take on it.
No, and that's the interesting thing, is that all of the pushback on this stuff comes from the predictable people, right? It's people who it's women who are longtime fans of the franchise who get basic things about it wrong, who don't, you never see them at events. They're not showing up at these things. And then of course it's men white knighting for them. Like that's the ultimate thing is it just separates out the people who do care about the hobby from the people who just care about the hobby, and then the people who care about the hobby plus are trying to get into the pants of the women who will never sleep with them anyway.
Pretty much. I mean, there's a really great image macro from like on the V boards and stuff that sums it up really well. I don't have it saved or anything, so I can't share it. But basically, it's a group of guys together playing a game. It's some kind of hobby, and then one of the guys brings his girlfriend with, and she doesn't really want to play the game, but he wants to get her involved in it. But she just likes the attention, and so she brings a few of her female friends who just kind of want the attention, which attracts guys that don't want to play the game but are interested in the girls. And by the time, this evolves to the last panel of this little like image comic and stuff, it's a bunch of casuals together who don't even really like the hobby or are familiar with it. They're just there to try to date each other. And they've driven away all the normal players because they're smelly and getting in the way of people hooking up. And I think that kind of sums it up, really.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Halo did, right? That's what Halo did. It brought video gaming mainstream and then in some ways ruined it. But I guess to each their own. If you wanna be one of those guys who buys a woman to bring to Warhammer stuff, then that's more power to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me adjust my microphone. Some people in chat are saying it's a bit loud. Let me see if I can.
I turned you down a bit.
Oh, okay. If you got it on your end, then.
Yeah, it was my fault. Because some of my guests do come through really quiet, and you actually sound good and are voluminous, so you're fine. I've adjusted it, so it should.
That's a nice way of saying obnoxiously loud. See, that's that lawyer speak we all come to appreciate.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn you down even more now. No.
Before we move on, should we broach the subject of female space marines? Is this something that
Yes.
we want to go into?
Yeah. I do want to talk about female space marines. So should we have space marines who are only good 3 out of 4 weeks, Terran standard? Or would would they all be blood angels and just be like really, really vicious for that one extra week? Is that the red thirst?
Oh, God. There seems to be a big push a lot of people want to do this female space marine thing, and again, it's exactly this. It's you read some of the lore books and you have a female character. She's a strong, independent woman, but she's able to punch a bloke, a full-grown like veteran warrior, in the face and knock him on his ass. And it's like, well, it's unrealistic. It really takes you out of the moment. And the thing with the Space Marines is, they're supposed to be this warrior order of knights. They're a brotherhood of knights. They're being indoctrinated to be super soldiers. And, you're sticking women in there, it instantly ruins it. It takes away that whole aesthetic. It's gone. So I don't know what they're thinking with it. I think it's marketing. I think it's a big marketing push on them. They think they're going to get more women players because there seems to be a drive for that now across all industries. But GW is starting to go down that route now.
Oh, Border Prince, you can't see this as well unless you have the stream up, but
yeah,
you're way off on the side of your frame.
Oh, am I?
And it's my thing has it cut off, so you got to be right in the middle. So either.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Thank you.
Center.
Thank you. Sorry. That again, it's all my garbage format that I have, but this is my show, and you will abide by the rules, sir.
I follow the rules. Yes.
Yeah, the female space marine thing is weird because Warhammer has all sorts of ways for men and women to equalize in whatever sort of capacity that they want. Like you have female assassins that are wildly powerful because of the augmetics. They can and in some ways the assassin cadres are pretty interesting because they can be as strong as space marines or as fast as them with even faster. Yeah, the Eversor assassins are hilariously overpowered. But that's never good enough, right? Like because on par of the lore, the Space Marines are the cream of the crop, and that's what matters.
Pretty much.
My art guy's yelling at me. He says, "I made this garbage format. Thank you." Well, yeah, I mean, you're welcome. You're welcome. No, it looks good, but my operation of it is substandard. But yeah, so you've got this weird thing where they're trying to push women into, like, it's never enough. And that's what people, oh, I got the mouse on the screen. That's what people, of course, in all of these movements are noticing, that there's never enough apologizing. There's never enough allowance it has to be beyond parody to be satisfying for them.
Which is saying something when it comes to 40k, which is in itself so absurdist and almost, you know, pure parody of kind of that whole genre, that kind of idea, to take it a step further. But
they're taking it seriously. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. I mean, it really is patronizing how they're doing it. I think they're approaching trying to get women involved in this like they would trying to play with a cat. They want to dangle something. They want to dangle something shiny like keys in front of them. Like, oh, the Space Marines, right? That's nice and shiny. You can cosplay as that. Won't that be cute? Like, that's the mentality they're taking with it.
What we need is we need a resident MRA on the stream to actually suggest that that's also how you get women into things, is to dangle something shiny in front of it. Just that, because women are like cats.
There you go.
I'm kidding. No, but so that is an interesting thing, and it'll be interesting to watch it develop. Of course, the funny thing with all of these genres is you have implications about who different races may represent, as far as Star Wars runs into this, right? Like the Trade Federation or whatever, they're obviously supposed to be Asian, and mainly considering they were all voiced by Asians in really weird and uncomfortable ways. But
you gotta get China money. You gotta get it.
Yeah, and 40k has similar things. Orcs. I don't even know if orcs are supposed to be a particular race or not, but there's lots of speculation that they are, and that's because they started off as these representative microcosms in sort of a small work. And I think all of these things they never plan for how big they get. So then when they get big and they have to enter sort of this idea of mainstream awareness, and 40k, the Games Workshop has definitely pushed that with all of the licensing they've done over the past couple years. I mean, any video game studio could get a license for Warhammer IP. Any video game studio who wanted it. And that was a big
Warhammer Monopoly now. It's mental.
Yeah, I definitely want that. Although isn't Broadway Cadia, and didn't Cadia like Cadia broke? So that's that's a terrible, or no, I think Broadway might be Terra, but I think Park Place is Cadia. So it's what a disaster that is. So but yeah, they're definitely pushing to get it into the mainstream, and I think that's because my understanding is that in the late 90s and early 2000s, Games Workshop was really in a vulnerable position. They were losing money. The property wasn't doing well. They weren't managing the IP well. And that's when I think they started with Black Library, really firing up the publishing aspect of it, and then launching IP licenses all over the place. Some of them good, and most of them god awful. But I buy all of them just in the hopes that there's one good game that comes out of it.
Yeah, keep hoping. Every time I buy a 40k game, I always say, you know, in the back of my head, I'm like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good, but you know, hope wins out, and so I purchase it, and then I'm like, I'm looking forward. Well, it's not even 40k; it's just Warhammer, though. But they've got that Diablo like game coming out, so maybe that looks good. Maybe that'll actually be really well.
It looks okay. The Mechanicum one that came out recently was okay. It's just everything's sort of just okay. You know, Battlefleet Gothics come out recently, the second one, and it's okay. But you want something truly great, like the Days of Space Marine or the first Dawn of War. You know, those are glory days, and I don't know. I don't think we're going to get anything on that caliber again soon.
You know, the second Dawn of War, I know a lot of people didn't like the campaign. I sucked so bad at the multiplayer battle version. Like I would start a game and I'd lose in like 3 minutes. So I was obscenely discouraged from trying ever again. But the Last Stand mode was really fun. That was the one where you had one hero that you controlled, and the other two players would control one hero, and you had like a wave assault thing. You had to get through 20 waves of enemies, and it got wildly difficult past like wave 16. And that was a fun game. I really wish they would have continued that. Of course, with Dawn of War 3, instead they just like jerked off on a copy of Dawn of War 2 over and over and over again, and then sold that or something. It's such an ugly disaster of a game. But Last Stand was fun. Dawn of War 1 was great. Space Marine was really fun until suddenly everybody just stopped playing one day, and all the servers kind of depopulated. Eternal Crusade was good up until they released it. Then it turned to garbage.
Yeah.
But I do have hope for Chaos Bane. I played the beta a little bit. I played Inquisitor. I put probably 50 hours into Inquisitor, and
Is this Inquisitor Martyr?
yeah, and it's just slow. It's like, this is a Diablo style game. You should be killing hordes and hordes of enemies. It should be fast paced. You should not be sitting here taking like 5 swings to kill one guy, and then when there's 40 on screen. That was actually the Diablo 3 problem originally, was how eventually it got too tedious to play. And then they changed that around and made you into a probably too strong now. But then Martyr is the same thing. It's this boring, like,
Yeah.
it's a tactical action RPG. I don't want that. I just want the action part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Chaos Bane seems to be better because you're swinging, you're hitting multiple enemies, you're killing hordes of things at a time, and then you have to focus down mini bosses and bosses. That's kind of how those games should be.
I just hope the difficulty on that is good. Like the thing that turned me off of Diablo 3, aside from just the always online crap and the auction house and stuff like that, was the difficulty. Like, if you go to play that game on normal or even just hard or whatever it is ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
Like, you'll find yourself, you'll almost be zoning out. It's like you don't even have to pay attention to what's happening on screen. It's so easy at a certain point. And like, when I'm burning through a boss in 20 seconds, I'm like, something's really wrong here. And then you go and read, and they're like, yeah, you have to set it at the most extreme difficulty. But oh well, you're gonna have to start over. You can't switch once you started the campaign. So I was like, oh god.
Did you play Diablo 3 early, Jim?
No, I did not. No,
Man.
I did not play Diablo 3 early. I stayed away from it.
When they first launched it and you got past the hell difficulty or whatever, and you unlocked the I think it was called Inferno or Torment or something. You got to the first one. It was really difficult. And then when you got to the second act of that Inferno difficulty, you got one-shotted, like pretty much everybody. And it was brutal. It was so freaking hard for a long time. That was great. It got really, really tough. Although same thing on normal, Diablo 3 was pretty easy. Once you got to the hell difficulty and above, it started to get hard. And now, of course, it's just like a click to get to level 70 as fast as possible, and then the game starts, which is a weird play, but they do it. But it's been around for, like 6-7 years now, so people don't care about the backstory anymore. It's just, I want to try a new thing.
No, they're all excitedly looking forward to Diablo Mobile. I mean, I think we're all fingers fucking crossed for that. Who needs a proper sequel? Give me that mobile shit.
All I do all day is I call up Google and Samsung, and I'm like, your phone better be ready. Your phone better be ready for my Diablo mobile game, because if I get frame lag on your stupid hardware, I'm suing you. That's the majority of my day until I go on stream. So I'm really glad that they're doing that. It seems like a wise choice.
Now, did you ever play any of like the early games? Like, I remember playing Space Hulk back on Saturn, and like that game was just fucking unmerciful.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I didn't play it back then, but I bought it on Steam a while back and tried to play it. I got just murdered immediately. Gene Stealer comes up and just rapes your guy immediately.
Oh yeah, no, it'll straight fuck you into the dirt. Yeah.
I've got to go to the best game ever. Was Shadow of the Horned Rat. I don't know if anyone ever played this, but it's the hardest, most difficult game you've ever played in your life.
I've never played that.
It's amazing. You can't find it anywhere now. There's like a ripped version you can download and play, but it's the most difficult game ever. It gives you missions that you can't win. You literally can't win. It puts you into a mission so you die a bit, and then you have to carry on the campaign. But it's like in the fantasy. Well, it's in the fantasy setting, so you lead like a mercenary army and you go all the way around the map. But it slaughters you. It's the hardest game in the world, hands down.
Was it a PC game or?
It was on. They released it on like PlayStation 1 back in the day, but it was PC originally. But it had a sequel, Dark Omen, which is a bit more accessible. They toned it down a bit, but the first one was brutal, completely brutal.
A lot of people in your chat are screaming out Path of Exile. Yeah, I mean, that's fucking fantastic if you're looking for Diablo done right, I suppose, after the disaster that Diablo 3 was.
I don't play Path of Exile. I tried for a little bit and then I just quit because I was unfamiliar and I just don't have a lot of time to play games. But,
You're waiting for that mobile game. I got you.
Yeah, you put Path of Exile on my phone with some monetization behind it. Oh, I'm there. I'm there. I love my microtransactions. Or better yet, I hope it's an idle game so I can just gain experience while not doing anything. That's the most fun. No, so but I've watched a couple videos of this one guy who his whole purpose is to just wreck the game. So he builds these, he makes these builds where basically every time you get a cast on hit or cast on ignite, and then he sets up the build to ignite your enemies constantly, and you get hit constantly by your own stuff. So your screen is just raining pixel effects or particle effects all the time, and it crashes the server over and over again. So that's funny to me. I love when games can be broken in that way. I should probably try Path of Exile. I played Grim Dawn. I played Grim Dawn for quite a bit, and that was fun. It was more Diablo 2 style than
Yeah.
Never heard of Grim Dawn.
It was pretty good, but back to the 40k or Warhammer, I guess, universe. There was a PC strategy / 4X old world Warhammer game back in the late 90s or early 2000s. I can't remember if I was still in high school or not, but it was you had your little regiments of units, and you would do the real-time strategy battles.
Yeah, this is Dark Omen. Yeah.
Was it Dark Omen?
Yeah.
Where
yeah.
you'd have the two heroes come together, and the battle would stop around them, and they'd circle out and let the two heroes fight. And you had
no, that's a different one. That's the one they had that trailer. You remember the badass trailer they released with Warrior Priest in the woods?
Yeah.
Fighting a bloodthirster. I mean, I can't remember what it's called. Chaos Gate? No, something like that.
It wasn't Chaos Gate. Chaos Gate was a 40k turn-based tactical. No, this was Old World. And man, I didn't know anything about the Old World Warhammer at the time, so I was getting stomped. But it was fun. Man, it was weird. I don't know what that was called. God, I gotta find it.
That's another one I'm unfamiliar with.
The game that I don't know the name of and can't remember much about at all is the one you're unfamiliar with.
Yes, when you're talking, it's like when you're saying it's like a 4X.
Mark of Chaos.
Mark of Chaos.
Mark of Chaos. Yeah. That was a fun game. I didn't play it too much. I had it. I probably have it in a box somewhere. I should find it. But that was tough. Yeah. Anyway. So I guess I have questions. You guys are my guests. I'll interview you both. What got you guys into the lore, or into Warhammer 40k or Warhammer? I guess. Border Prince, do you want to start? What got you into this stupid world?
It's pretty prevalent over here in the UK, to be honest. It's the kind of thing you go to school and people bring in their Warhammer to the the games. You can bring in a board game for school special day or whatever. So I just got into it that way, and I've been into it ever since. And then I stopped when I was 15 because I discovered booze and women, and and then I came back to it when I was approaching middle age because I've got sad. So that's it really. Yeah.
There you go. So
that's pretty much it. Yeah, I played I played in a couple of tournaments, fantasy tournaments and stuff back in the day. Played a bit at X-Wing as well, but I've always been around that sort of role play, games clubs, game shops, all that sort of stuff. And now it's mostly just the lore because I don't really have time. Although I bought Blackstone Fortress recently, and it's pretty immense, to be honest, as a game. I'm really chuffed with that. I mean, the quality of the work they're doing now, GW, for all the things we might say about them, the models that they're producing they're astounding. It's fantastic work. They are the top tier. I mean, that's why they are where they are, because the quality's just there compared to other games companies. But that's it really. There's nothing super interesting to say about it. I've just always been into it, and I've always read the books since Black Library started.
Yeah, I think Games Workshop had their come to Jesus moment and said, we either have to fold or we have to work really hard and make this a real property that people want to invest in, not just because they're nostalgic about it, but we want to attract new players. And they really seem for all of the weird stuff they've done with Age of Sigmar and stuff like that.
Don't even get me started, man.
We don't have to go there, but for what they did, I've got all the Age of Sigmar books up behind the special editions up top.
No.
They're
That's
pretty,
heresy,
man.
man.
I had to buy them. They're too good looking. But for all of that, I mean the 40k stuff that they keep putting out, the models keep getting better. To me, the new lore stuff, and we can talk about Vigilus and stuff in a little bit, but
Yeah, happy to. Yeah,
that's all very. I mean, I think it's great, and doing the Horus Heresy was probably the smartest move they could have done. I really hope they do a series on the Unification Wars.
yeah, definitely. They've got to go there. But they get, as soon as the heresy's over, they're going to do that whole period afterwards where they're sort of pushing the traitors back to the Eye of Terror. That's going to be the Scaring. That's going to be a big series because we're going to get to see the Iron Cage, the Iron Warriors like slaughter the Imperial Fists, all that sort of stuff. It's all coming. But the Unification Wars would be amazing, especially reading these Primarch novels now, these short ones, and it's like it's grimdark Star Trek. They go to a new world every book, and you meet this new society that needs to be slaughtered and brought into compliance. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's not enough rape though. So Jim, Jim, you kind of covered this, but do you want to expand a little bit? Like, what brought you into this this stupid universe? Because I mean, it really is stupid, and that's part of the appeal to it, in my opinion. But what kind of really attracted you to it?
Well, yeah, like I was explaining earlier. I mean, when I was younger, I was into Magic and D&D, and so you'd go to a hobby shop, you'd go to a card store. You'd usually have a large group of people playing these games together. And you'd always have a smattering of like one or two guys who were into the Warhammer stuff, right? The 40k stuff. They'd have armies and they'd do their own thing kind of off in the corner, and it would eventually catch your attention. I explained to you, kind of when we're off air, I tried getting into it, the board game aspect of it, because I was under the impression that you could buy it pre-made, pre-painted. I didn't understand that after you spent your hundreds of dollars, that you had to assemble it, glue it together, sand it down, paint it, lacquer it, make it look nice and fucking pretty before you even really sat down to learn the game itself. And I was like, okay, that's a bit of a investment for me, but I did like the lore and that I found that appealing. I kind of fell out of it for a while, but what renewed my interest in it, I guess more recently, as in like the last 5 or 6 years, was on the TG board. They had a kind of a theme that they used to go through where they'd write sci-fi stories called Humanity Fuck Yeah, which is, it's not in universe in 40k, but it's kind of going off of that, like where humans are the central figures and they do kind of this bizarre or extraordinary shit. And it was, it reminded me of that, and that kind of drew me back in. And so now I've started getting back into the novels and shit like that. And I like it. I like the kind of the lore, the worlds, the races, and I like the what if scenarios. Like, to me, 40k is the sci-fi what D&D is the fantasy. Like, a lot of it really is player dependent. It's your imagination, what you're willing to invest in it, how you're willing to look at the lore, and where your mind takes you from there. And I like games and hobbies that make you put that investment in, where it's not just the developer holding your hand and saying, we've explained everything, you can't think outside the box. Here's 40k, it's fucking insane. It's grimdark. There's crazy shit happening everywhere. We've set down, some basic stuff, but you feel free to go fucking crazy with it if you like. And so I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's one thing I like, because once you get into 40k and they have the second founding, and now a third founding with the Primaris stuff going on, and Robute coming back, you have infinite possibilities for you can make the chapter however you want to make it, and you can make them as stupid as you want to make them. You can pick the color scheme you want. You can have them have weird mutations or whatever. Like, oh god, I was gonna make a joke, but I'm not gonna. You can have them do pretty much anything, and it really does leave a lot into it. Plus, I mean, that's not even counting the really deep lore stuff that they were just competent enough to not say anything about. I don't know. I get in these stupid 40k holes where I'll like go to Lexicanum and spend like an entire day reading a stupid wiki about like some legendary weapon, that because I'm such a power nerd that I will spend all day reading a wiki about some cursed sword. wielded by whoever. But and then there's of course there's a couple of channels out there that really do a great job on the lore. Border Prince, you have a channel that talks about Warhammer quite a bit. But there are also channels like 40k Theories, and that guy's great.
He goes deep,
yeah. Arch Warhammer, of course, does some stuff. Lutein09 does really amazing videos. And there are others too that I've watched. I can't think of their names, but the 40k Theories ones just consistently blows my mind with how deep some of this lore goes. And I'm pretty sure that they could never run out of material. That's what I mean, when you talk about the ancient ones and the original and the Necrons and that stupid war that they had going on.
That stupid war, that was a fantastic war. Fucking space dragons made of energy. How does that not write itself?
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's so absurd, like the whole thing. And then they of course bring them back with these shards of the Catan or whatever. And they brought it back, and they even bring it into 40k when like in the Ultramarines omnibus, which I give a strong recommend because Uriel Ventress is pretty cool, and his companion Pausanias. But they're when they encounter the Nightbringer, a shard of the Nightbringer, and he just straight murders pretty much everybody around. And that whole series, the Graham McNeil Ultramarine series, is a lot of fun because they go all over the place. But yeah, that's what got me into it. I showed it off stream, but this is the first Warhammer book I bought. It was this Eisenhorn omnibus. I was walking to Barnes and Noble during my lunch breaks at Thrivent Financial in Minneapolis. I'd walk through the Skyways and go read. And then I'd buy food on the way back and eat at my desk. But I saw Eisenhorn, who, here's how grimdark he is. His face is paralyzed into a permanent scowl by the torture he received from an Eldar. Like
he could fix it, but he doesn't want to.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. It helps him with his job too much to be eternally pissed off. So that immediately attracted me to the show, to the whole universe, and ever since then I've been just hooked on it. I'll spend hours and hours watching stupid videos. That's how I wind down at night, as I watch 40k stuff and read about it. But
actually, I do something similar. You mentioned Luton 009, right? I think that's the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
he does like hour-long videos and stuff. Those are fucking phenomenal. Like they're real. I could sit and binge watch those.
Yeah, his ones on like the Emperor and the deep history about how the Emperor came about. Oh, that was another thing. When I was first not when I was first getting into 40k, but when I'd been reading the books for about a year, I read Paradise Lost, the old book Paradise Lost, and I noticed the parallels, of course, between the Emperor and this was right before Horus Rising came out, and I had been reading wikis about the backstory of the Emperor and the Primarchs, and I read Paradise Lost, and I'm like, weird. And then 40k is like, it's like a grimdark sci-fi retelling of Paradise Lost. And so, of course,
JW stole something. That's terrible. No.
I think they re-envisioned it, and they borrowed from a. Now, let's be clear: Paradise Lost has been public domain since like 1680. It's okay for them to borrow that one, but no, they've got this. They've got this emperor who's supposed to basically represent God, and they've got a bunch of Primarchs being the original angels, and Horus takes a bunch with him. But like the parallels were good, but then the story diverges wildly. It diverges wildly because Horus ends up, well, maybe it does, I don't know, with Horus kind of damaging the Emperor permanently, but then being wiped off out of existence.
See, I don't remember Paradise. I don't remember there being Lucifer partying up with a bunch of filthy Martian machine worshippers and fucking up this whole plan. I don't remember that part of Paradise Lost.
There's liberties taken, Jim. There's liberties taken. No, so Horus represents Lucifer, and then he takes well because it has to be fair for Games Workshop, he takes half of the traitor or he takes half of the Primarchs with him. But in Paradise Lost, it's a third of the angels, Lucifer takes with him, and they wage a war against heaven that's basically unwinnable. They get cast out into this chaotic realm of fire and death, which would be, I guess, relegated to the Eye of Terror. And you have a lot of parallels, but it goes wildly off the rails. But this was before the heresy really started being fleshed out in the way it was in the books. And my understanding, reading a lot of the forewords of the books, is that they loved that the lore was thin enough that they could make pretty much whatever story they wanted, so long as they
gave them freedom to do whatever.
They just had to get to certain plot points, but outside of that, they had a lot of freedom to move to them. But man, that it just caught me at the right time, so that's what got me into it. And over my shoulder, I should point out, is the picture Bonitis. Furry porn artist Bonitis drew of me as an Inquisitor, so apparently I'm.
Is the fursuit under the armor? Is
that
where it is?
We'll just say all the fur is down south, buddy.
There you go.
I've got my goat legs. My goat legs down in the under the power armor. They don't fit down below.
So should we have a lore conversation, a nice in-depth one, about why the Emperor is a bitch and should be pulled off life support? Should we jump right into that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Probably.
With the stagnation of the Empire and how it's falling apart. What is it, 1,000 psychers a day he needs to keep that throne fueled?
Yeah, but who likes those chumps anyway?
Oh, nobody likes the underclass in 40k. I love the idea of the sacrifices. I also like servitors. The idea that you're just going to take people and make them into kind of machines because you don't want to deal with AI fucking you again. It's really
true. It's true. It's a danger.
You just lobotomize whatever person broke some minor law, and they get penalized to be a servitor for like the next 400 years, where they're conscious enough to know that their life is garbage, but they're not conscious enough to fix it. Oh, that's funny.
See, now I love it. Your chat's screaming heresy right now, but the way I see it, almost every other race that exists in 40k has a solution to the problem of the Chaos Gods. With the exception of humanity, which is just kind of sitting with its thumb up its ass and like this stagnant kind of weird neutral ground of we don't want to advance too far because we don't want to fall back into what happened in the past. But, like not really having a solution. Like this is how I look at it, right? Maybe you guys can tell me where you diverge. When you're looking at like the Tau, right? What is it? The different casts they have where, the speculation is, it's kind of like they're brainwashed. Right, into being part of the collective. So I always find it fascinating to think about, like, okay, well, if you've got these different gods that exist in the Immaterium, right, and they come about through emotion and thoughts, right, that's kind of how they were formed, in a way. If the Tau can brainwash people that are part of their collective, what's to stop them from brainwashing enough people and then collectively putting an emotion out to create their own form of a god to battle the Immaterium? Against.
I don't know how current you are with the lore, Jim, but you see, the Tau have created a god of the warp. There's a Tau god of chaos now.
Oh, shut the fuck! Is there really? Okay, fantastic.
It's been created. So the Tau were going to go into this big expansion, and they sent this massive fleet out, and they got stuck in the warp. And the demons came and ate everybody who wasn't Tau, because the Tau haven't really got a sort of spirit, really. Their soul spark is quite low.
Oh, so the space commies have no soul.
Yeah, but the best bits to come. The best bits to come. So they're left. The demons start to notice them because they're there, and they start coming for them. And all of a sudden, this giant being comes out of the warp, and it's like, in The Simpsons when Mr. Burns becomes like an alien. It's like that, but with multiple arms, and every arm is like the arm of a different race, with like a symbol in their hand to represent all the different races they brought into their collective.
God of diversity?
They've created the god of diversity. Yes, that is it completely. And the god comes along and saves the Tau fleet. But the best bit is the Tau get onto the other side of the galaxy, another chunk of the galaxy, and they're there. And they're so messed up with what they've seen. They see this entity that's been created from their beliefs in a utopian greater good, the god of the greater good. They're there and they're disgusted, and it's like it's scarred them all. So now you've got a faction within the Tau Empire on the other side of the galaxy who have started genociding all of the other races they encounter. Every world they go to, they slaughter humans, they slaughter everybody. And when they make contact again, they start killing all the other races again. So they get like assigned crew contingents, you know, like normal. These crew contingents all of a sudden start getting mysteriously slaughtered and stuff like this. And firing squads start emerging. Yeah,
you're telling me
brilliant.
the Tau are building space ovens?
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so you've got this entire faction now that they're still Tau, they're still devoted to the greater good, but they think that the only way to preserve the greater good is to kill everybody who isn't Tau. So this god dies in the warp. So yeah, that's where we've got this is peak grimdark. It's beautiful. So their ideals have corrupted them.
I love that. That's fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Tau created. They literally created Stalin, Mao, and Hitler into one
yeah.
giant god.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Do you think they're gonna have like the Tau god of diversity end up fighting? Oh, what was the name? Is it Unid? The Eldar?
Yeah.
Worlds? So is it gonna be like some god of diversity that's all messed up because they ovened all the Servian races against?
Wait a minute. So they have that. They have in the Uriel Ventress Chronicles. They already have a greater demon that is literally a train. So do they load up? The warp bound races on the demon train, send them straight into the space ovens?
Well, I don't think they're planned for that, but yeah, I can see where you're going. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, I honestly, God, I did not know the Tau had already reached that step. But see, that's where I'd imagine it going. And then you've got the Eldar working on, their craft world god. You've got orcs, which are basically the power of positive thinking. There's a meditation that exists, and if they believe it enough, it's going to come true. So I could imagine them doing well. Yeah. And then what you've got Necrons and the Catan, or however you pronounce it. I mean, what is one buried on Mars? I think isn't that part of the lore?
The Void Dragon.
Yeah,
And the best thing about the Void Dragon is that his influence, so the effect he's had on humanity, being so close to the Martians, is the reason why the Martians went all techie. It's like corrupted them over the generations. That's the idea, you know. His influence on them. He's underground in this area, and it's warped the minds of the tech priests, and that's why they became tech priests, and that's why they worship technology in this way. The flesh is weak. It's that ethos has got into them. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I love how the Martians they'll perform rites and rituals for a fucking toaster, right? they're so into that. And I always found it so bizarre, like when you're looking at the Iron Man, the AI kind of fall of humanity.
Yeah.
And still, but they want to look for that lost technology. There's still like that allure to go find it.
Yeah, the STC is the ideal,
Right, they want that template. They want to be able to, 3D print super weapons.
Well, that's all it is, isn't it? It's our technology given 10,000 years advance. It's beautiful what they've done. I don't know whether they intended it, but whatever that they intended it's all come into fruition,
They're really just trying to find the fleshlight STC. Let's be real. Once they find that, it's a downward cycle for humanity.
That's what mech androids are for, man. You just got to wrap it round.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you look at it, you've got the Necron and their living metal with their space dragon gods, essentially. You've got the Tau creating their diversity gods. You've got the Eldar working on their own god in a crafts world. I mean, and then the orcs just are orcs doing whatever the hell they feel like and, destroying everything for the fun of it because positive thinking carries the day. But humanity, and the Emperor is just kind of, it feels again like it's stagnated. He doesn't even really have that strong of a grasp on Mars. The Horus Heresy kind of, I think, highlighted that, didn't it?
Yeah. There's a series. There's a book called Titanicus by Dan Abnett, and it goes pretty deep into the sort of the theological problems between the various wings of the Mechanicum. Some of them believe he's the Omnisire. He's the physical representation, the avatar of the machine god. And you've got the other faction that don't believe that at all. If you think he's an imposter. And in this Titan Death novel, they discover a bunch of information from the heresy, and it makes clear that back then no one viewed it like that. It's just morphed into that period, into this belief as it's gone along. And then they start a massive civil war between themselves, and it's nice. It's
well, and even what even looking at Tyranids, right? Their way of doing space travel, like faster than light stuff, they don't use the warp. They use some like weird.
They fold space. Yeah.
Right. So you'd think again, like if you're the emperor of humanity, and the warp has been the thing that's caused the most distress, and using it and being a part of it or having it influence you is just a huge load of trouble, and you've got this weird alien race that can do it a different way, you'd be like trying to hunt them down and like reverse engineer that somehow. But again, they're so stuck in that mindset of we don't want to advance, we don't want to go down the path of what happened before. Now, like I hear that's starting to change a little bit, but I don't know.
Well, now that Roboute is back, the Imperium has been given some direction. Also, with Cadia falling and half the galaxy, or the galaxy being split in two, it's really causing troubles. By the way, here's Titanicus.
I'm jealous. I am jealous.
Even the hardcover. Yeah. Geez.
You go down to your little British bookstore or whatever.
I'll get my paperback off Amazon in a day.
But yeah, it's really interesting, the theories around the Emperor, and I'm curious what Games Workshop or Black Library is going to do, because at some point they have to address this question. The question Jim is bringing up is very prudent, because they have to figure out, okay, how do we've either got to bring the Emperor back or we've got to kill him.
I know what they're going to do. They're gonna come up with their own kind of Deus Ex Machina, right? And it's going to be something like, oh God, hey, we found out if we sacrifice 100,000 psychers a day rather than 1,000 of them, we can transfer the Emperor's soul into a new body. So let's go, genetically engineer some more kids and just hop them over one. It'll be something like that. I really hope they don't, but
I don't know. I mean, there's a whole thing about the Emperor's thrones breaking down. Like recently, they tried to a group of Inquisitors tried to bring a homunculus, a Dark Eldar, Mad Doctor, onto Terra in order to fix the Golden Throne and repair. Like this is what's going on, sort of in the internal politics of it. You got all these factions trying to fix him, but like I said, with Guilliman returning, it's very odd. Guilliman is completely disgusted by all of the Imperium as it stands at the moment. He's disturbed by it. So I don't know what's going to happen. That thing though used to be the Old Law. That's what people were going towards. There was a whole like Illuminati sort of subplot going through with all these children of the Emperor who were perpetuals, and they were going to reincarnate the Emperor in one of their bodies, but I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe if Vulcan comes back, he'll get reincarnated as Vulcan.
I would love Mars Mechanicus. I'd like them to find a template to build their own Omnissiah, and then to literally pull the life support on that motherfucker and take us into a wild new direction. And maybe have the Tau come in with their diversity god and start just, going 1940s Germany on the universe.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
See how things turn out.
I just want to point out that the train I mentioned was the Omphalos Daemonium, and it was literally powered by an oven. So
that is amazing. We got that in there.
Well, that's the thing as well. I just want to say Fabius Boyle can clone people. This has been confirmed. So maybe he can just clone the Emperor at this point. Who knows?
Yeah, he cloned like a bunch of Primarchs, but they all seem like chumps. There's something missing from him. Like, because he clones Horus even, and Abaddon comes up and just straight murders him. Like it's no big deal. And he was cloning Ferrus Manus left and right. And what's his face? God, why can't I?
Fulgrim.
Yeah, Fulgrim would just kill him. Like it was a big deal when Fulgrim kills Ferrus Manus at the drop site. He hits him with the big hammer and rips his head off. And then it was like this huge world. I think energy was released. Like Space Marines are driven to their knees or knocked down by it. It's this big thing. But then when he's killing the clones, it's just like business as usual.
Nothing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can I address one? I hate to do this, but somebody in your super chat did bring up something talking about the Astronomicon, right? And that if the Emperor goes, that goes. And then where's the lighthouse for humanity going to be? Because they all need that to basically find Earth or to keep things together. Again, that's where the Tyranids come in. If you can find an alternate way of traveling without having to use the warp and having to have any of that system in place, you don't need that anymore. And you don't need the Emperor anymore. So again, just
This is heresy. No,
this-
this is heresy.
all I'm saying is maybe
You
Horace
consult with
wasn't
Xenos,
completely-
Jim. This is unacceptable.
Maybe Horace wasn't completely wrong. Maybe
Wait a minute. This is dangerous.
Wrong reasons.
I gotta stop you, Jim. We're gonna get thrown off of YouTube. You can't be talking good about Horace. That's the Holocauster of the 40k. Can't
Well,
do
I mean,
that.
if Horace had done what he had done, but he wasn't influenced by the Immaterium, right? If he wasn't influenced by that, if the Chaos Gods hadn't kind of given him that desire, you know what I mean? If he had just done it because he thought it was right, would it really be as bad a heresy? Like if somebody just came forward and said, "We've got to fix this shit. We can't continue in perpetuity doing what we're doing. We have to ditch the dead weight."
Right. Well, it's all Magnus's fault, even though Magnus did nothing wrong. Because the what was it? The Thousand Suns didn't need astropaths, right? Like they just piloted their ships by themselves, or not. They didn't need navigators. They just would pilot their ships through the warp, and they would use some sorcery mixed with some psycherness, and they could do it. But because Magnus pissed off the Emperor, he made his stupid decree at Nicaea. And ruined everything going forward, because they really didn't need the Astronomicon. Although I think the Astronomicon, what is it? I can't remember the name of it, but he's created basically like the theory is like a demon of the Emperor in the warp.
Yeah, it's like an avatar of his people's belief in him mirrored in the warp. You know, so.
And that thing's weird.
Yeah.
He should kill
Celestine?
more.
Are you talking about Celestine, the angel girl?
No, not Celestine. The one that came out in the Ahriman books.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just envisaged that it was just kind of his soul in general. You know, like just darting around as he does, because his mind's shattered into shards. The Emperor, so he helps some people because he's all over the place, but he can't help them that well because he's not very powerful. That was my. I know what you're talking about, but that was how I saw it.
Now, was the Void Dragon? Sorry, I'm jumping way back, but we were talking about the Catan and the Void Dragon on Mars. But wasn't he like supposed the Void Dragon, or at least a shard of the Void Dragon, was supposed to be the George and the Dragon story?
Yeah.
And so the Emperor's already faced down a Catan. Are we?
Well, no, he faced down
a portion of one. Yeah.
Let's be okay. I don't think a full-grown one doing its thing is like because when the old ones are fighting the Necron and the Catan, like they're getting their shit kicked, right? Like I mean, this was an unstoppable force. If they hadn't decided to go into what was it, cryo sleep or whatever they call it,
yeah, they just got sleepy.
Right. They decided, hey, we're so good at dominating everything. We need to take a break and give these losers a chance at recuperating for a minute.
Yeah.
So, oh God, and I had a question related to this too. I was gonna ask you, and now it just completely slipped my mind. It was about the Void Dragon. Hopefully, it pops back in. I'll ask it later if I can remember it, because it kind of played into this.
Well, I was just wondering. Border Prince, you were saying that the Emperor's like his mind is in shards. It's shattered. I'm wondering if they're gonna like retcon him into some sort of, because like originally the Emperor was the Emperor, and then later the Emperor was a being created by the like combined sacrifice of all of the Psychers on Earth in some primordial day, and like some shamanistic culture. They all did that and then combined into this thing. So now I don't know. They've been changing so much of the backstory because it's so loose, and they can make it. Is the Emperor going to be a Catan, or is he going to be?
That would be fantastic. Actually,
I'll tell you the theory that one of the authors came out with. He said that GW wouldn't let him, but he said he wanted to make the Emperor into a rogue AI that had survived from the Dark Age of technology and just was able to trick humans into believing he was, a godlike being, and it's actually like a rogue AI from back then, before the wars in the Age of Strife, that had survived and determined that the only way it was still following its programming to protect humanity, and it determined that this was the best way to do it. That's the best story. They said that he wasn't allowed to do that.
Oh, the irony of that would have been great, because then the Martians would have loved it. He really is the Omnicide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but everybody else would have hated him.
Yeah. But,
no, that's what I was going to ask. Relating to the Catan, maybe you can, because you might know the lore a little bit better than I do. when the Eldari trickster god, right? Because he was the one that got the Catan to start going after each other.
Yeah.
So what exactly is that? That's the, like, when it relates to their gods, that's the thing that's always kind of slightly confused me. Is this an actual corporeal being? Is this like a chaos god or like a sub chaos god? What exactly were their gods? What is the trickster god?
Well, I don't know. I think they're just sort of playing off that it's a mix of mythology that the Eldar don't fully understand. You know, it's like maybe there were warlords back then. Maybe they were old ones who were leading them and giving them this direction, as because the old ones created the Eldar and most of the other races. It's like they've left it loose enough that they can basically do anything. So basically, whatever an author wants to do.
I got to stop you here. You're completely wrong on this.
Oh no.
Actually, it's the trickster god is Shurgarath, and they're releasing Skyrim again.
I need that DLC.
Yeah, it's a Skyrim DLC for 40k. Thank God. Give me a bolter so I can just finish this stupid game already. No, it's that's what really has sunk its fangs into me, is the war in the heavens a long time ago. The timeline on it is so weird too, because like the fall of the Eldar and the destruction of that. I mean, that if we're taking 40k timeline to literally now, if we're trying to linearly apply it to reality, the Eldar are still ruling the galaxy, right? And the fall of the Eldar will happen in something like 10,000 to 15,000 years, and then they'll create Slaanesh. It's such a weird sort of thing to think about, how they've gotten all this stuff going. But yeah, I don't know how they manage this, because they're painting themselves into weird corners. And maybe this is a good thing. We've got to address the question of Primaris Marines. And I guess the way they're advancing the story. Because I always thought that the Horus Heresy was a way that they could avoid advancing the 40k story and leave it in limbo for a while. But then they did that. They let the heresy go for about 5 years, and then they decided, no, we're gonna move forward now with the main timeline. And so I guess Jim, are you familiar with Primaris Marines and the new developments with Robute coming back?
No, like the newer stuff, I'm not familiar with. Like I said, I just started getting back into the lore, and especially like picking up my own omnibuses and novels and stuff. And like just I've focused more on like kind of stuff like the past, like again, War for Armageddon, which is fucking fantastic. Debs Odin does a really, really great job with that. No, walk me through it. Explain to me where I didn't even know that Tau had created a diversity god. So I guess I'm on the loop.
Okay,
and I didn't know there was a space train with an oven fueling it either.
Well, let me take you through this a little bit, and then Border Prince, if you can correct where I'm wrong and help out with this. So of course, after the heresy, Robute gets mad and decides to go kill all of his brothers that are traitors. But he fights, he kills, well, maybe he kills either Alfarius or Omicron. We're not really sure if they're actually dead.
That's what they want you to think.
Yeah, that's what they. I think Omicron is in the Omega Vault. I think that'd be way cooler if he was in the Omega Vault of the Grey Knights. But we can talk about that later. So he goes and kills him, and then he goes after Fulgrim. And Fulgrim, I think, wounds him with the Lair Blade. Am I right? Yeah.
I think he stabs him in the throat with it. Yeah. Yeah. It's either that or his tail. I can't quite remember.
Yeah. So he sticks Robute in the throat, and Robute he's alive, but they put him in stasis, and he stays in stasis for something like 8,000 years, just sitting there, not healing, not doing anything. And then Cypher teams up with an Eldar. And this is where it gets really weird. He teams up with an Eldar and a Grey Knight who should have murdered Cypher and the Eldar outright because he's a Grey Knight and they're funny, but he doesn't do it. And they go on a quest. They invade Macragge, and they actually go put on a Xenos technology breastplate and bring Robute out of stasis, and that the Xenos thing heals him completely. And he comes back. using this heretical technology, and this is the good boy Primarch, remember, like the most down with daddy's orders. And then he goes and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna go talk to this I don't remember the Mechanicus guy, but turns out the Emperor had been working on Space Marine +1s called Primaris Marines, and they maybe had a chapter kind of test subjects lurking around, but then he puts them into mass production and starts just making super Space Marines all over the place. And now they're being deployed into various chapters, I guess, as they go. And so it's weird because this is like all of this Xenos technology and heresy being just straight added into the most good boy Primarch and the good boy Legion, like fronting this. Did I miss something in that, Border Prince?
Yeah, well, there's the Archmagus Belisarius call.
That's right.
That's
yes.
the fella.
Thank you.
So Guilliman, before he died, he tasked him with creating a purer form of Primaris. That's where they started out. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally correct, but it's worse with the Eldar thing. So Belisarius made this, his armor suit is like a life support system as well. So that's his armor. That's what it's for. The bad thing with the Eldar is that she used the spirits of all of the collective dead of the Eldar to heal Guilliman. That's that's the messed up thing. It's not just heresy. It's, I don't know, necromantic heresy from this.
Well,
necromantic Xenos heresy.
Yeah.
I thought the spirits that you're talking about, the craft, were the ones that they were putting towards.
Yeah, she sucked them up, you see.
So are they used up now? Because they didn't have a lot of power to begin with.
A lot of them. The collective dead of all of the Eldar was used to create this avatar of Yenev, the god of the dead. So yeah, that's what happened. And this woman, is it Yenev who's the woman? I forget. Yennari's the god. Yeah, Yennari is the god of the Eldar dead. Her avatar, her champion, is this Yenev, and she went there and used Eldar ghost powers to heal Guilliman. So it's doubly heretical.
I love it. That's fantastic. Way to mindfuck everyone with that one.
Pretty much.
So the question then, of course, becomes and I'm wondering if Games Workshop has the balls to pull this off. Is Robute like a sleeper Xenos agent that is going to be influenced by the heresy involved? And is he going to turn? And are the Primarch or the Primaris Marines, are they just a basically an insurrection that's waiting to be triggered by some Eldar word that'll tip the scales on them and suddenly turn them all crazy into murderous rampaging beasts?
You're talking about like some galactic Manchurian candidate that's just waiting to be given the go-ahead?
Yeah, what if he goes into he's already been granted access to the Emperor.
Yeah, and that was an amazing scene. You've read it, right? The Dark Imperium novel?
No, I haven't.
God, it's the way he describes it, like the Emperor discovers that he's found a tool that he thought lost. How he described, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's just, the Emperor's just like, oh, you're alive, fantastic, boom, enters his mind. You've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And Guilliman walks out like gutted because he used to think of him as his father, and he realizes now that he's just a tool to the Emperor, which is it's brilliant. But he gives him his sword, so that's something at least.
The sword is flaming harder than Siegfried and Roy, so that's good. But yeah, so then he creates the Primaris Marines, and of course this is at the same time that the 13th Crusade, Black Crusade, because White Crusades aren't successful. The 13th Black Crusade comes in and breaks Cadia, and they're making their way, I guess, not towards Terra, or they're really roundabout. I'm dark onto why they can't why they're not going straight for Terra on this.
Because they'll lose. But Abaddon knows that like the collected forces will all gather up and kill them. But what Abaddon tried to do, there's a book called Throne Alloys, or The Emperor's Legion, and it goes into this. Abaddon's plan was he sent a bunch of like stealthy fleets towards Terra before the fall, and they had Blackstone Rock, giant things like in their ships ready to shoot down into the planet, because the Blackstone would cut Terra off from the warp. So in all the planets and systems around Terra, they deployed all these massive stones, just launching these ship-sized hunks of Blackstone onto the planets, so that it would create it would cut Terror off from the wider warp. So
Sure.
the Emperor would be cut off, the Astronomicon would be cut off. They wouldn't be able to, the fleets from Terror wouldn't be able to move out. And they only just managed to stop it at the last place. They were planning to do this ritual. So yeah, he was planning on cutting that off and then gradually taking the Imperium over.
Is that Vigilus?
No, that's the Custodes novels that came out recently by Chris Wright. Emperor's Legion.
I gotta read that one because I love.
Yeah, it's quality.
Custodes are fantastic.
Yeah. That's the one that explains where the Sisters of Silence come back into the Imperium as well. So it's definitely worth it. Definitely, 100%. Not a lot of people have read it. It seems to have just sort of gone under the thing, but it's one of the most important books in the current setting. No one seems to have read it.
Which one is that? Which
Emperor's Legion, I think it is. Have you got that one?
I don't know. Did they do a special edition?
Maybe.
I'll listen to this. Rub it in a little more.
I know. Watchers of the
paper bags.
Well,
Watchers of the Throne, Emperor's Legion. That's the one.
Oh yeah, I've got that one.
Have you read this one yet?
No, I haven't read it. It's right here.
Read it, man. Read it. Read it tonight.
They did do a special edition, right?
Yeah, of course. Cheeky side. Look at that, man.
Sorry. Because I stopped having a ton of time to read these things. So I stopped buying the paperbacks that were coming out, and I stopped buying the hardbacks because I was buying all of them in paperback. I have a bunch down on the lower shelves. But I stopped buying those because I would just, if I got a chance, I would read an ebook because I'd be on a plane or something. Yeah. But I always buy the special editions. So I'll have to, that's a good one you say. I'll have to read it. I'll change the order. The last one I read was Lords of Silence, which was really good.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, Jim, if you haven't read that, you need to read that. Skip everything else and read that.
Yeah, I've already gone into debt buying books. Like, I've got so much to get through. I got the Eisenhorn trilogy. People came up with a list of everybody's like, you got to get this, you got to get this, you got to get this. I bought a bunch of them, but it gets spendy. And like, you're talking special editions and hardcovers, and I'm like scraping pennies together to get the paperbacks from used bookstores.
Yeah, it's my one collectible hobby that I do. So that's how I justify it. At least that's what I tell my wife. It's like, this is the one thing I buy. Leave me alone. But no, she likes them because they really do a ridiculously good job on how the books look. And so as long as I've got books that actually are appealing to look at on a shelf, my wife is, she doesn't give me any grief about it. I don't know that she knows I spent like $300 on Solar War yet, but but no, so I will check that out. The Custodes are fantastic. Yeah. I'd like to talk about them and kind of the stuff, but what I wanted to ask first, I'll do another interview question. This one I'll start with Jim. Jim, who's your favorite Primarch?
Oh, start with him first.
Oh,
it's a question everybody wants answered, Jim.
They're already fucking screaming heresy at me in the chat for my thoughts on alien races, on the Xenos, and what should be done to the Emperor. Start with him first.
All right, Border Prince, who's your favorite Primarch?
I'm telling you, that British stream that I did, I lost like 200 subs. I'm probably gonna lose 200 more answering your question. So
you weren't wrong, Jim. You weren't wrong. You were completely right. I had to unsub. I'm sorry, though, on principle.
Oh, hurtful.
I don't know. They're all fantastic to a different degree. I mean, the Night Haunter is the most baller one. I really like Perturabo. The Iron Warriors are a fantastic legion, and him and what he's done, he's just like a stroppy teenager who just wants to be recognised for how awesome he is, but no one does. I go with more the traitor Primarchs myself. They've got a bit more flavour to them.
Maybe a more interesting question is, which Primarch is the biggest cuck? Like, who sucks the most?
Oh. No, that is a question.
Yeah.
Well, we know it's Fulgrim, obviously, if we're just talking about who sucks the most.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Fulgrim's eating D all day.
Oh, he loves it. He loves it, man. I don't know. Who can say it'd be Rogel Dawn, wouldn't it? I mean,
he's the least interesting Primarch to me. I gotta agree with you. I know a lot of people like him, and that's fine, but I don't know if his story just isn't fleshed out enough for me. but all the other ones seem more interesting.
Yeah, he hasn't
Uh,
got much character to it. I mean, he has, but not as much as everybody else. But if like literally in terms of getting cooked, I mean, the Iron Cage destroyed his legion in the aftermath of the heresy. So Gilliman just took over the Imperium because Roel Gul'dan didn't have the strength to oppose him and had to take on. You know, he had to go by the Index Astartes. He had to take that on and break his legion apart, which he never wanted to do. You know, yeah, that was it. He literally got broken and screwed over after all of his sacrifices.
yeah. Do you think he's dead? Or do you think, I mean, they're going to retcon him to be alive.
Yeah, blatantly. Yeah, all the Primarchs are going to come back to life.
Now, they started that with they started it with the Beast, right? Because in the Beast, Vulcan says to Slaughter, before Vulcan goes to fight the Beast, he said, or well, you know what I mean. Before Vulcan goes to that Titanic clash, he basically says to Slaughter, like, I will, when I see Dorn again, I'm going to tell him about you, right? And so the implication is that Dorn isn't dead. He's just floating around somewhere, like some sort of weirdo.
Well, the law was he died. He disappeared in a boarding action. He jumped on a ship trying to take it, and then the ship fled into the warp, and that was the last I saw of him. And then somehow they recovered his hands, apparently. But yeah, I don't know. It's not been hammered out what actually happened to him, and we haven't got to that point yet in Heresy or anything. So, you know, we'll see, I guess. I mean, he is going to be alive, though. GW will bring them all back. They're trying to bring back Sanguinius. I just don't think they've figured out how quite to do it yet, but they blatantly will. Blatantly.
Yeah, they have to. Oh, okay, Jim. Best and worst Primarchs.
Listen, like I'm hearing all these names, but I'm not hearing the right name. Okay, I'm like a teenage white girl from the suburbs. I like me a bad boy. Right, so I'm going to go for Horus.
Oh, Horus.
Listen, I'd like a wrench getting thrown into the machine. Okay, I like a little bit of fucking chaos. I like a little bit of heresy. I think that's probably apparent by now. When you ask my viewpoints on the Empire, when you ask my viewpoints on the Emperor himself, I get it. I get it's heresy. I get it's heretical. But Horus is my boy.
You know, that's a better choice than Lorgar. Because let's be real, Lorgar's a bitch.
Pretty much.
I'm reading chat. Like a couple of people were saying that he's referring to him as a cuck.
Yeah, Lorgar. Here's the funny thing about Lorgar. When Malkador, the Emperor, I don't know if the Emperor was even there. It was like Malkador and Gilliman show up at Monarchia, and Malkador mind rapes all of the whatchamacallit, the word bearers, and makes all of them kneel.
All of them kneel. All
of them at the same time. Just this little frail old Walmart greeter making all of them kneel, and then Lorgar like hits Gilliman, and Gilliman just stands there and is like, "Are you done yet, you petulant child?" And he's like, "Oh, Lorgar sucks."
Pretty much.
And he almost gets killed by actually, this is one of my favorite Primarch scenes. Lorgar almost gets stepped on by a Titan. And Angron catches the Titan's foot and holds it. Like, because Angron's my favorite Primarch, because he's just funny. He's so pissed off all the time that I can't get over it. And
listen to this shit in your chat. He's weak. They're telling me he was weak because he got dominated by chaos. No, okay, he was thinking outside the box. All right. Sometimes you got to take a new approach to solve a problem.
Hey, Horus was he was brought low. He was brought low in a cheap shot. He was screwed over by a nerd that he trusted, Erebus. Never trust a weirdo like Erebus. And that's what happened. You know, it wasn't Horus's fault. It wasn't Horus's fault.
I should have read chat more. I should have went with Mandar. Clearly the proper choice for bringing the fucking darkness.
But so then I guess moving on from the Primarchs though. My favorite, people always ask me my favorite Legion, and it changes like every time I answer it. I think right now it's Salamanders. I really like Salamanders as a Legion. They're funny to me. They're funny because they're and this is, I mean, I guess this makes them the biggest cucks, but they're willing to sacrifice themselves for humans, which is weird.
Nonsense.
But also Vulcan Histan is really funny because he just runs around killing things by himself. It's like, we're gonna take one Space Marine who's like tougher than all of the other ones. We're gonna give him 3 of Vulcan's weapons, and he's just gonna go around the galaxy killing stuff for fun. So I like that. But my favorite army is the Custodes. They're, to me, they're the most interesting sort of faction that exists in all of 40k. Like, I love Grey Knights, but Custodes is, because each one of them is handmade, apparently. Although I don't know how they keep up numbers with the Emperor gone. So do you know anything about that? I have no idea how they keep making them, or do they keep making them?
I assume they've got the same sort of just gene modification things they had before the heresy. But you're right, they all have a bit of the Emperor's genetic code in them. He's their Primarch, essentially. But yeah, the Custodes are just amazing. They are individual warriors. Each one of them would be a warlord of his time if he was just born on a different planet.
Except for Saturnalia, that guy sucks. That was the worst custodian of all time. He got beat up by a generic Space Marine.
He wasn't a good representation. But the guy who went against, in First Heretic, the guy who just like cut up, 20 odd Space Marines in that cave on Cadia.
Yeah, was that Constantine?
Yeah, Constantine. Yeah, or is the sword Aquilin? Is that what he had? The sword Aquilin. But yeah, that guy, he pulls his spear out and he just hacks these word bearers to pieces, and it's amazing. Those guys are brilliant. First Heretic is the best heresy book by far. These Custodes just laughing at how weak Lorgar is, just watching him talk to his legion. They're just laughing at why are we stuck with this weakling Primarch? Everybody else is getting glory. I'm
gonna disagree with you, but I'm gonna hang on to my recommendation for best heresy book in a little bit. Okay. But Jim, are you familiar with the Custodes, the Guardians of the Emperor?
Well, you skipped over me. You're asking which legion we like.
Oh
best.
Yeah, what legion? Oh right. Sorry, I apologize. What legion?
Oh do you like? Yeah, don't let the heretic answer. Which one do you think? Luna Wolves.
You're gonna go with Luna Wolves?
Yes, the Sons of Horus. Yeah, come on.
Oh, come on.
What the fuck do you think I'm gonna say?
They're the Chaos Ultramarines.
Yeah, the Sons of Horus were weak. They were terrible.
All the shit talk.
The Emperor's children annihilated them, man. It's done, They're broken.
How's the Emperor doing now? Oh, that's right.
It's all part of the plan. You don't understand. He's been planning this for a very long time.
It's a great plan. Hey, I'm
actually
life support for a kabillion years and get fed Psyker souls because I got my shit kicked in.
Actually, though, I'm gonna agree with you to a point, Jim, because two of my favorite Space Marine characters are Luna Wolves, former Luna Wolves. You've got of course Garviel Loken, who is an absolute comedy of a character in the Horus Heresy, right? And I do recommend reading through the Horus Heresy because the first 3 books at least are absolutely wonderful. You've got what were the first 3 was Horus Rising. Oh crap! I don't remember the next 2 titles, but
no, me neither. No,
but they're basically the trilogy of how it all kind of kicks off, and Garviel Loken is at the center of it, and he's great, and he comes back later. Spoiler alert, sorry, but he comes back later. But then the other one is the other Luna Wolf from Terra. He was the one who was stuck in Terran prison when they found out about the traitor legions.
Oh god, yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he's like a latent psyker, and as long as he concentrates, like people can't see him. That guy is freaking cool too, and he's a monster. So I'll give you Luna Wolves. I like them.
Thank you. Heresy's not so terrible, is it?
No. Who's the worst legion though?
What? Oh, fuck. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Is it? Do they go by the name Luna Wolves?
No.
Do they go by the name Luna Wolves? Or if yes, not terrible. If no, they can suck a big dick.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying any other legion? All of the others are just so subpar.
That's I gotta speak truth here. I gotta speak my speech. What can I say?
I actually don't like Space Wolves. personally.
Really?
What is it? What is it that doesn't mesh with you? What is it? Is
They're
it too
too
Viking?
they're too generically Viking for me. Like I find them to be the least creative legion. Although I'm going to contradict myself when I mention what the best heresy book is. But what is it? Maybe you can help me with
Prospero Burns. Is this what you're going to say?
No, not Prospero Burns. The one where the guy, the Remembrancer, is sent to Fenris.
Shit! Yeah.
That's a great book. The whole thing is told through his perspective. He almost dies, and they bring him back as like a modified Scald or whatever, and the whole thing is told from his perspective. I loved that book. I really did.
Wash his skin, Nick. They take his skin off and wash it for him. That's what the elite are doing right now. It's glorious.
That was.
I think I've done my job here. I mean, not only am I a heretic, but I like, as chat's referring to it, the space furries is what I've now been designated as being for. But no, I actually do have to jump. I've got a dental appointment early in the morning. So this was enjoyable. I wish more people would be on my side of this. I do think, I think maybe, I'm just saying, maybe a little heresy isn't too terrible. Okay.
Well, I mean, you do like space furries, so the heresy is.
Well, that would explain it, wouldn't it?
Right.
Why I have such shit opinions. But I am interested to see where it goes. I do like. It just feels like everybody's positioned to kind of take it in their own kind of direction. I really, again, the whole God of Diversity thing, I didn't know about that. So it's
glorious. Yeah.
That is amazing to me. That is absolutely amazing to me. I'm curious. Like, will anybody try to exploit the Tyranids and their travel techniques? What are the Eldari going to do? What are the Eldari going to do? And then of course you've got Necrons and their little living metal shells with their magical space dragon energies, and it just there's a lot of directions it can go, and that's the thing that's always attracted me to it, and things like it is when you've got so much crazy shit going on, and it's so absurd and it's so over the top. That's what makes it fun. That was always the appeal to me. I wish I could have got more into the tabletop game, but I'm an impatient person, and kind of building it and putting it together and painting it and stuff is like that's a lot to invest into it. But I always enjoyed watching people kind of get into it.
Well,
the lore is way more appealing to me, and I mean, with the amount of books I've got, I'm going to be able to recite retarded facts. Nobody has any idea what I'm talking about by the time I'm through with it. But I look forward to that because it's good fiction and it's really good fun. And I hope GW doesn't screw it up, and I hope marketing and PR doesn't take it into let's have a broader appeal by I don't know, by trying to appeal to people that aren't interested in the first place and kind of pissing off the fans. You know what I mean? So
you mentioned all the painting and building the models, but really like the 2 hours of BO and fusion on a Sunday, that's the real problem. That's the real investment.
I don't know. You kind of become desensitized to it. Like if you've ever sat through a D&D campaign that lasted for more than, I don't know, like an 8-hour play session, the smells that are coming off of that, man, like you couldn't pick a piece of poetry that comes close to describing what that is. So, I could tolerate that. But thanks for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation. Again, chat, you're wrong. Horus is the proper answer.
Oh.
Fuck the Emperor. Welcome to the new reality.
Wow.
Kick him.
All right, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, and you have a good dental appointment.
Yeah, fun times. All right, take it easy, guys.
Later, man. Well, that was exciting. So